Right on time.
All right.
That's right. It's 4 o'clock. That means the Jimmy Doan Show is live. We don't fly with a net.
No, we don't. That's right, live. There's no editing on this baby.
That's right. We have a 2-second delay. That's barely enough time for us to go, oops. This is Counselor Curtis. That's Jimmy Doan. This is the Jimmy Doan Show. We do this twice a week, 4 o'clock, Wednesdays and Sundays.
May
live.
1st.
Yes, today is May Day all around the world. And we post a copy of this right up on YouTube a couple hours after with all the subjects timestamped for your ease of listening. Hey, Dr. Willis. And so please join us. If you want to listen on audio, we're available on iTunes and SoundCloud and other places like that too. So, what is happening today is the 1st of May. We just said that. So,
Cinco de Mayo, Sunday.
well, yeah, well,
Okay, that's a big deal.
they can add.
Yeah, I know they can. All right, well, it's again, as usual, in no particular order, but it's fun. It's fun anyway. We're having fun with this.
Why do you say that? You destroy our journalistic credibility.
Well, actually, there are a couple of things here more or less in order. This one's not. I thought this was kind of interesting.
Go ahead.
A harness-wearing whale was, quote,
All
trained.
of our journalistic credibility. I'm just kidding.
A harness-wearing whale was trained by the Russian military researchers. It turns out that fishermen off of Norway...
They found my whale.
They found my whale. Now, this is great. It's a narwhal, I think. Or no, it's a beluga whale.
Okay.
That's the one with the big head. And so they found it with a harness,
Right.
with some quote GoPro attachments on the side. I don't think they actually had
And
that.
it said, and there was a stamp on it that said Kremlin, I think.
No, it said St. Petersburg.
Right.
But I mean, that was that was the whole deal. I thought it was interesting because the way they found it was the whale came up to the boat and it started squeaking, wanting to
Would you
beg
like a bomb?
No.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
no. But it was interesting because the whale just seemed real friendly.
Right.
Obviously been trained, and to approach boats for food. And that's when they said, "Wait a minute, there's a belt on this
Where'd
thing."
you get that harness?
So anyway, they took it off.
It swam through some trash.
But I thought it was fun. Of course, they said that it was trained for spying was pretty much, true, so to speak. I guess you wonder, of course, if they're trained to look for submarines or something.
Well, sure, and mines, and there's a few various things that they have trained them for in the past, but it's not like it's going to be the new super force of underwater
Sharknado or whatever.
Yeah, no, this is
okay.
Here come the Russians.
Yeah, this is of course the beluga NATO. Okay,
That's right.
Not too worried about it. I just thought it was kind of interesting though that they.
Wait a minute. Did it say anything about the election?
No.
Oh, okay.
It didn't. You thought it was coming from Russia. You would have
That's what I'm saying. I thought maybe this beluga whale colluded in some way.
Right, again. I don't know. Next thing, Burger King plans to roll out, quote, their Impossible Whopper.
Yeah.
Across the United States. This is kind of interesting. This is a meatless. This is all faux meat or whatever it is. About a year ago, they did some experiments and they found out that the protein meat look-alike or whatever that they did in the lab, maybe a couple of years ago, it was like $1,000 an ounce or something.
Right.
So apparently, Burger King, being private, said no, we can do better than that. And the same kind of thing that when the NIH was doing sequencing of the gene, and the guy, I forget his name, quit the NIH and said, I can do this better. Done, right.
Like
and
2 weeks later.
Yeah, right, whatever, he knew how to do it. So anyway, but the Burger King's test of a vegetarian version of its signature Whopper was such a success that the chain is planning to roll out the Impossible Whopper, quote unquote, nationally this year. It's supposed to taste just like Burger King's regular Whopper. Unlike veggie burgers.
Not.
Well, wait a minute. Here's what I think. Impossible Burgers are designed to mimic the look and texture of meat when cooked. The plant protein startup recently revealed a new recipe designed to have the taste and feel and so forth. And I thought this was one of the things that's interesting. I think that what they're probably going to have is a spike in people that run in there and say, I got to try this.
Right.
And I wouldn't doubt that, for 30 days or whatever it is. Now, they're going to roll it out over a couple of months, but it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm going to certainly run in there and try one.
Apparently they sold out or whatever, but I'm with you. I think this is all advertising. I think there's a reason why they call it the Impossible Burger. because it's
well
impossible.
named. Well named.
Exactly, and this also does not speak well of the normal taste of the Burger King burger if they
Right. Yeah, we've decided to mimic shit. And
we got it real close.
yeah, well, it'll be fascinating to see, because the reason, obviously, when you look at the burger itself, I mean, nobody's
It's
going to
an
be saving
assault on the planet.
Pardon? Well,
Cow farts and
no.
ground clearing. And
But here's the deal. My guess is by the time they dress it up with the mayo and everything, there's no savings in calories. Probably about the same.
Oh yeah, well,
And of course, I find it hard to believe that vegetarians are going to make a beeline for this burger.
for Burger King.
Yeah, the Burger King, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a true vegetarian is not going to. But
They love the smell of Burger King in the morning.
I guess, but there could be. I mean, I know that I've got one or two relatives that are pretty much strict.
This is so you can drag your one
Exactly,
vegetarian friend.
exactly.
Dude, there's something for you there too. Shut up. Come on.
That's right.
Get in the car.
That is I'm just getting ready to say that.
Your
That is
14-year-old daughter. Shut up. Get in the car.
Yeah.
You're getting an Impossible Burger.
Don't you worry. No cheese.
That's right. You can have fries and a Coke. Now you get a burger.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it is interesting because it's just, I guess it's another quote alternative. I mean, you think about McDonald's, you think
Sure.
about hamburgers,
Yeah.
but they got eggs, muffins and
Yeah.
everything. So so they just added another item to their menu. I'm not sure why they would advertise it as like a Whopper, but
Yeah, no, I would disassociate. But that's, I mean, they're trying to obviously glom
Well,
onto
this
the.
is the
Look, they're
beauty.
trying to survive too. They're trying to transition from the old days. McDonald's and those places are the kind of places that now you walk into and the person you're with goes, "Man, I haven't been here in a while."
Yeah.
I mean, everybody is.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because Jim Gaffigan does about a 5-minute spiel.
Yeah, I was just ripping him off. That's what I just did. I just ripped him off.
No, he's really funny about, he says you see somebody in McDonald's and you go, oh, hey, where am I? I'm not looking around. No, how did I get it? Hi, Bob, So, now, the next item is we have profitable giants like Amazon pay 0 in corporate taxes. Some voters are upset. Colin Robertson wonders why he pays federal taxes on the $18,000 a year he makes cleaning carpets, while the tech giant Amazon got a tax rebate on almost $11 billion. Now, first of all, if Mr. Robertson is making 18 grand, he's in poverty. I mean, he's getting something. I mean, he's on food stamps. He ain't living on 18 grand.
Right.
He's getting something. He has an earned income tax credit. I mean, I don't know what it is, but he ain't living on 18 grand, and so he's getting something. And what he gets upset about is, of course, the money's not coming from Amazon. His concerns about tilted economic recently led Mr. Robertson to join the Akron, Ohio chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. At a gathering this month, as members discussed Karl Marx and corporate greed, and they did this over chocolate chip cookies, whatever. And it wasn't long before the talk turned to income inequality and how the government helps the wealthy avoid taxes. Well, of course, it's a tax law, and maybe they do. But what he said was, one of the benefits of taxation is taking it and using it for the collective good. Now, of course, he expects that he's part of the collective good, I guess. But I thought that what I thought was interesting about this is he has no problem in the redistribution part of this thing. And I thought that they've also said, of course, that a lot of the Bernie Sanders and that crowd are also going along the same thing. And this is spurred by a report that 60 of the Fortune 500 companies paid no federal taxes on $79 billion in corporate income. Amazon, this is one of those things that comes towards the end of the article. Amazon, which is reported to be opening a center in an abandoned Akron mall that will employ 500 people. Now, I got news flash for you. Amazon Jeff Bezos might not be paying taxes, but you can bet it's an abandoned mall, number one, that's going to get used. Somebody's going to collect rent from that, certainly. and 500 people, they're going to pay taxes.
Yeah, well, we touched on this a couple of episodes ago about on a couple of levels. Number one, the misnomer of them saying Amazon didn't pay any taxes, as we talked about. All the individual people pay taxes. They all pay sales taxes when they buy stuff. There's tons and tons of tax generated. This is one little aspect. This is the federal corporate tax, and they're getting it because of the offsets, which of course is written into the code. This guy's complaint is he wants the code to do more about it. Well, he doesn't recognize what he just said in his own statement, which is the code is manipulated by the people in power. So you can go ahead and try and change the tax code all you want. The same thing's going to happen. The people in power are going to manipulate it to serve their own needs. But that being said, of course, we all know the rich pay way, way, way more as a percentage of their income than the rest of us right now. And what we're seeing is just, like you said, a pitting of them against us. That this is the new political stance. It's those rich people hoarding all this money. But I think people are getting more and more educated about the concepts that we talked about as well. Like, the rich people's money is just not sitting in their mattress; it's in the bank, which means it's being lent out to create new jobs.
Well, that's not all. There are other things. Remember now, this is a corporate tax. The idea that Jeff Bezos doesn't pay any tax is insanity.
Right. I mentioned that.
I mean, and so what we're talking about is the top 5% or 4% or whatever pay, 35, 40% of the total income tax. Mm-hmm. So they're paying. But corporate taxes.
Where did this story come from?
Who knows?
Well, I mean,
why would I know?
Well, it's just, to me, this is anecdotal. This is one guy's, and I agree.
Probably on Yahoo News or something.
Illustrative of maybe a broader perspective these days. That is, there's more and more people who seem, at least if you believe the sensationalist news these days.
Well, the thing about it is, what we're seeing here is that Amazon has become the poster child for corporate tax avoidance. One of the things that is interesting is that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, among others, are hammering along at this great income inequality business.
I know.
And what's interesting, people don't realize is corporations don't pay taxes. They collect taxes. When you tax a corporation, it's money that was paid into the corporate by us. And when you tax a corporation, that means the corporation as an entity has fewer dollars to spend on expansion or stock buybacks.
Right, you just redefine the terms a little bit. I mean, what you're saying is that money, that tax money, would have gone to the shareholders and the corporation.
Probably.
So the shareholders are effectively paying the tax.
Right.
Whatever tax it is.
So it's sneaky.
Well, sure.
I mean, the fact is,
as inflation
here's the deal: you can demonize Amazon instead of raising the taxes on the 2 million shareholders to pay for that money that you would do.
Well, right.
So, you get a lot of complaints from 2 million.
Yeah, it's big, ugly Amazon.
Right.
It's this huge it's amazing. But as I said, I think people become more and more educated about the concept that business entities are not our enemy.
No, they're not. You go to them every day.
Right.
I mean,
But this is going to come up in another couple of stories that we've got coming up here.
Okay, good. Next thing I got is Democrat O'Rourke accuses Trump White House of dictating Fox News content. Not so fast. Well, no. What is interesting about this, as you know, they have demonized Fox for years because it was conservative, ailes and everything like that. Lionel Nation, who's one of these podcasty type video podcasty guys,
former prosecutor from Tampa,
living in New York now, and he gets on almost every day, maybe twice a day, and talks about this stuff. And he is all upset because Fox happens to be, swinging over. They got what's her name, Brazil, and there's some other people. They're starting to get some of the leftovers from the mainstream media, and they're switching their very conservative stance to be more, quote, broad or something. And he's really upset about it. He says, as far as they're concerned, they've caved into more mainstreamy, which is kind of interesting because I just read an article that said that the other mainstreamy cable ones, MSNBC and CNN, are losing.
You call MSNBC mainstreamy?
No, cable.
Okay.
No, yeah, they're the ones. They're the lefty. ones.
Yeah, they're not. That's not mainstreamy. That's totally lefty.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, they get quoted a lot, and it's interesting because
They quote each other.
Yeah,
Look,
that's true.
Here's what happened. From my perspective on the news situation, it's very clear what happened. There was a massive explosion of audience through the internet. A massive explosion. These news organizations, which used to feed a few hundred million people on the nightly news, all of a sudden their audience was potentially 10 times bigger. And they realized, clickbait. It's all about sensationalism for right now. Until the market settles out, it's about sensationalism. So every news organization went into sensationalism. And all their stories, if you look at it through that lens, can be easily explained. They're just making the biggest story out of every little molehill. This is, everything is a gigantic issue, bombshell.
breaking news.
Breaking news, you know, I mean, come on. What's her name did breaking news every single night? The super hot chick from Fox. Every single night, come on. Come on.
That's what, Rachel Maddow does the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's not.
We had everything scripted, but up until 20 minutes ago, now we got a whole new show.
Hand me the breaking news script. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. But that's what's gone on. And then it looks as though, now what's happening is you will start to see some of them will lose market share as they lose their core, their original purpose, that is, their journalistic core has been abdicated on in several of these organizations, like CNN, and come on, they're just off the rails. They're reporting on moon stuff, basically, aliens. They might as well at this point.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay,
trivial
so
stuff.
Right. Well, and so now it appears to me, and I haven't watched Fox in 20 years, but it appears like what they're trying to kind of save themselves. It seems like they hired a couple of people. They hired Brian Stelter and now Donna Brazile, some people from the other side. Their pitch was always fair and balanced. And obviously they went off the rails to the right-hand side at some point, at least, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. You just, what people talk about on the left is, well, you just listen to Fox News. So
right.
I can infer from that Fox News is reporting what they don't like. So I don't know, like I said, because I don't watch any of the mainstream news things. But that's what it seems to me. They just kind of threw themselves a line there, a little safety line, like, hey, we'll start reporting a little bit of the other side. Well, and they did report some anti-Trump stuff, like straight up they did. A couple weeks ago, they said something super negative about Trump, and he was all pissed off about it.
Yeah.
And that's what obviously this guy's upset about. But you don't have to worry about it. I mean, it's not like, look, nobody is allowing, it's not a collusion from the standpoint of he makes a phone call and says, Fox News, please print this now. It's that they know what that he wants to see. And if they want to print that stuff favorable to him, they'll do it. On the opposite side, they know what Hillary and whoever else the Democrats want to see, and they're going to print that stuff. So.
Well, they also know that when they do something like that, he's got 40 million Twitter followers. So when he tweets out something about Fox News, I guess that's some kind of a big deal. I don't know. But at any rate, what he said was apparently some of the organization's Fox people are moving into the White House.
Well, that was the thing. Like, one person was offered some position,
right?
Like,
yeah.
Like, where else are they going to come from?
Well, it's all. Of course, it's all about the money. When you come right down to it, they gotta. They're always going. That's the beauty of competition, I guess. But we've always known since for over 100 years, if it bleeds, it leads. There's always going to be sensational. Now, with newspapers, they came out once a day or twice a day or something like that. Now you've got to fill up 24 hours with this stuff, and it's just so unbelievably repetitive. And you can have the same breaking news for 2 days in a row on some of this stuff.
Well, I mean, it takes that long to proliferate. Some people get carried away in their work all night kind of thing, and then don't check the news for 48 hours.
True. Yeah, well, Mrs. Jimmy's one of those.
Yeah, sure.
She does. Okay,
you
next.
You mentioned Beto. We should mention his $5 trillion plan.
Are you kidding about Democratic presidential O'Rourke?
Yeah.
Lays out a $5 trillion climate
That's the
plan.
one, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. That was next on the list.
Okay, good. Perfect.
And of course, this is what the U.S. presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke said Monday. He laid out one of the most detailed climate policies so far in the crowded Democratic field, calling for a $5 trillion investment in clean energy, technology, and infrastructure over 10 years. reaching net zero emissions by 2050. Of course, that's the beauty of all this stuff, is 30 years in the future, what if you're wrong? I mean, what are they going to do? Come back? We'll all be dead by then, just about, so kind of thing. But what I like this is, my comment when I first saw the headline was, a typical government plan has massive cost overruns. A normal run-of-the-mill cost overrun could consume the budget of the entire Earth. I mean, when you think about $5 trillion, and the next thing you know, they start to put all the bells and whistles and decorations on it, 10 trillion, 20 trillion, who knows? I mean, it's never enough. It's never enough. And then there's all of the pork that goes along with it. Which roads get fixed first, second, third, who gets what. And when you realize that most of the work is actually going to be done by local contractors, I mean, not government employees are not going to be out there digging up the roads or repairing the bridges. It's going to be somebody, in a company, and they're going to bid for it, and they're going to collude or do whatever they do. And so
look, at least he started the conversation.
Okay, I roll.
No, look, I'm with you. This is insanity. But look, to me, this seems like the death throes of Beto's campaign. If you watched this actual, he made a video of this offer. This
did he?
This proposition.
I missed that.
And it has got no. Apparently, his handlers have been unable to stop.
Handlers?
Yes, his handlers have been unable to stop his handling.
Okay.
And he's still doing this kind of stuff.
Sure, well, you can't get over that.
Yeah, look, this is one of those where they bring you in the room and they tie your hands behind your back and they go, speak.
Well, you say that, but another one that does that hand business, it just...
Well, it's off the chart. I mean, there's some people, you can, little things that... Bill Clinton does or whatever,
Well, even Trump, this all the time.
Right, yeah, he does this and that, and there's a couple things, but nobody's doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, Beto looks like he's landing a plane or something.
Okay.
It's out of control.
I've seen. Well, okay, if you say so. I just, animation, whatever.
Okay.
We're doing
whatever.
very fine. No good. Yes.
Yes.
George Bush. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
His whole mantra, though, is, at least for today now, when, I know how you're going to say this, but is right now, as far as he's concerned, the greatest threat
Right, I know.
is climate change. And he's going to run the same way that Trump ran on the border fence, it seems to me. I mean, maybe he's going to switch,
he's gonna latch on to the 12-year thing, or the 11-year thing now.
Oh, is that right?
Or it's gonna be 10 years by the time he gets elected.
That's true. By the time he gets elected, that'll be sweet.
Yeah.
He, of course, and guess what? Guess how he's going to pay for the plan?
Savings on solar power.
No. Raising taxes on the wealthy and on corporations to fund the $5 trillion to modernize the infrastructure. The bill will be funded with the revenues generated by structural changes to the tax code that ensure corporations and the wealthiest among us.
He's going to eliminate fraud and waste.
But also that people pay their fair share.
Right.
That's the other thing. That's right.
Fair share and fraud and waste.
And he wants to make sure that the billions of dollars of tax breaks currently given to fossil fuel companies will be eliminated.
That's right. Eliminate the loopholes.
The loopholes. Eliminate the waste, fraud, and loopholes, and then So
sounds solid.
I'm only been listening to political speeches for 50 years, and this is right out of the 50s or 60s or something.
This is all new.
Yeah, all new,
This
right.
is fresh.
We're going to do what? Yeah,
Fresh ideas.
Fresh ideas.
Look, hey, nobody thought of spending this much on it, right? I mean, except for AOC, I guess.
AOC, right, yeah.
Hers is eliminate everything. We're all eating freaking grass.
Well, we're gonna, what you do is you do like the Indians, and wear moccasins and tread lightly through the forest and leave no trail, and that sort of thing, and just that's all you have to do. Problem is, of course, there's no more buffalo hardly out there to kill on your horses, and
whose fault is that?
Yeah, and whose fault is that? That's right.
White man.
That's right. So, and the next item I've got here is Jaguar Land Rover to let.
Go ahead.
To let drivers earn cryptocurrency by sharing data. This is great. Now, right, so what they're going to do is put something in the car. You can buy the car with the little tattletale thingy in it.
Right.
And
tattletale thingy.
Yeah. And owners of cars made by Jaguar Land Rover will be able to earn cryptocurrency as they drive by, enabling their vehicles to report useful data.
Yeah.
Okay, drivers will be able to earn digital
I'm
currency by...
shocked they offered them anything. I mean, usually we'd hear about this a couple years from now when somebody tries to sue them on a privacy claim after they'd already sold their information for a few years.
Again, I don't know. Of course, one of the things normally you like with the stuff you put in your car window to travel down the highway, you have to pay for that. You know, when you go through the toll booth, it docks you automatically. But apparently, what they're going to do here is they're going to put the little thing in there, and they're going to pay you.
Right.
You know, instead of OnStar, it'll be whatever, OffStar, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So enabling tech in connected vehicles to report road condition data such as traffic or potholes, which, you know, that'll be overloaded with that, to navigation providers and local authorities.
Well, look, the real thing here is local businesses. They get to sell your information to look, hey, this car drives by your store twice a day. That kind of a thing. That's where we're getting in terms of information sharing.
Okay. Once the data are received, data are received, other connected vehicles can be warned to take alternative routes. Interesting, Waze and Google Maps already does that to some extent. When you're driving down the highway, if there's a blockage, it'll show up on your on mine it does at any rate. But I'm just saying, if you think for some reason you're giving up your privacy, which of course you do anyway, you know, you think about it.
Yeah, look,
on Facebook.
Your phone has got browsers on it, which is accepting cookies from 17 different places. They're all keeping track of where you're going.
Yeah.
It's being transmitted all over the place. Like I said, the good news is that you'll know because of the marketing angle. Like I bought a specialty can of peanuts yesterday. I came home and went on Twitter, and there was an ad for that brand of peanuts. And I mean, coincidence? Maybe. But I only bought 4 items, okay? So, I mean...
and you only got one ad out of it.
Well, exactly, yeah. So, hey...
somebody's getting short. No, they do that to me. Again, my only real complaint with that is even after I bought the damn thing.
Right. That's the thing.
Shut up. You know, I remember when I got Grandma, when she was living here, I got her one of those alert things that she could hit a button and it would alert me.
Mm-hmm. You're still getting that.
I'm still getting that. She's been dead for 5 years, for God's sake.
That's right.
You know, so anyway, so now the next big thing, the next big news about Trump.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to touch on this.
This is great. Donald Trump has made 10,000 false or misleading statements since becoming president.
This wasn't what I was going to say, but go ahead.
Okay, this is a fact-checking database says Fact Checkers Database Service claims President Trump hit the dubious milestone on April 26th. Now, of course, it goes on to say a lot of stuff about
sure.
this, but right off the bat, you're thinking somebody's keeping count. And of course,
it's such a joke.
A lot of the stuff is when you think about it. If he gives a speech and he says the same thing 5 times, that's 5 lies. I guess.
Absolutely, of course. Look, all you have to know is this: anybody who tells you Trump's a big fat liar and they have 10,000 lies, ask them to name the top 3 lies. Okay. Ask them to name the worst 3 lies that he's made and the worst and the consequences, the victims as a result of those lies.
Okay.
And then see what you get, because I have posed that question to every friend on the left that I have, and the answers that I get are stuff like he lied about the porn star thing with $130,000, no real victim, unless you assume that somehow swayed the election, and then because she would have gone public with that. And that would have been the deciding factor in the voters.
Yeah,
and
the pussy grab thing, of course, had no effect.
Together.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah.
So anyway, ask him to name the worst 3 lies.
She was hardly a victim. She got paid $130,000.
Well, it was the lie about whether he paid it or registered or what. Well, my point is that there aren't any good lies that you can't even get back to if you can keep your doctor, or he's got weapons of mass destruction, or I didn't have sex with that woman. You know, there's every president. You know, read my lips. Every president, you can go back and find a nice stark lie that they made. But go ahead and try to find a good one on President Trump, and then get back to it.
Well, as Scott Adams said, he said a lot of the lies are good lies.
Well, let's just say one of them was the answers was Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
Okay.
Okay, so they didn't yet. And so what? I mean, this is from one of my liberal friends who didn't want the wall built. So I'm like, well, isn't that good then
For you,
because
yeah, right.
they didn't build it, right?
Well, of course, and he's lying. He does lies about, for instance, about the crowd sizes.
Right.
Who was hurt?
That's what I'm saying.
Lies about the economy, for instance. Find us this in 50 years, 100 years.
We're going to get to that in 1 second.
Okay. So anyway, said it just so and they go through the statistics, the stats here.
Right.
It took 226 days to double this number.
Whatever.
This is all
it's all that. You know what that is? Lies is what that is.
Right.
It's
Okay.
bullshit. I mean, come on. It's fake news.
So if during a speech to the NRA, Trump reportedly told 24 lies.
They're just trying to establish him as, they're going to have a chart, the most lyingest president ever, and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Elizabeth Warren came out right now. I read the Mueller report. One thing that we can tell from this is President Trump was absolutely the most corrupt president of our lifetime, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, what are the top 3 things? AOC couldn't name the top 3 things she wanted to impeach him for the other day on the radio.
Oh, is that right?
Couldn't name 3.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm post them right now. If you got them, post them up there. You can. There you go.
Well, it is interesting because when you talk about corrupt administrations, you don't know history because Grant, for instance, was one of the most corrupt, and Harding was the
people
teapot
said
dome.
that. Yeah, but look, you go back. The Teapot Dome scandal, even that one, and yeah, that may be the worst scandal. There's one other one that's worse. Actually, there's a couple of that are worse than that. There's a murder cover-up and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But the Teapot Dome was done by his subordinates, and Harding didn't even know about it.
Right.
I mean,
No,
the
I
buck
know that.
stops with him. Okay, fine, but it wasn't actually him.
Right.
And, I mean, so.
And same thing with Grant's people.
Yeah, exactly.
They were robbing. All his people were corrupt.
This is back, when they're sending messages by horseback and stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean.
Okay. So anyway, the question that I've got now for you is, you were going to say something.
Yes. Okay. Trump has done what I said he was going to do, which is he's proposed a $2 trillion spending infrastructure spending bill with the top Democrats, because the truth is Trump, in his heart of hearts, is a Democrat, economically speaking.
Okay.
He's a Keynesian. He believes, as they do, that he can spend his way out of this as long as he can keep interest rates low enough for long enough, and somehow the economic engine will regenerate. He talks about this being the greatest economy. Okay, we'll raise some interest rates, unload some debt. All these Democratic leaders are talking about we're the richest country on earth. We're $22 trillion in debt. Yeah. So that's like the average person. If the average person makes $50,000 a year, they're $50,000 in debt right now. So.
Oh yeah. I think it's more than that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, one year's basically, we're 1 year's revenue for the entire country. I mean, if you just look at the government share, then we're 5 years, 5 years in debt.
Right.
In terms of how much revenue the government makes every year, it'd have to stop spending everything for 5 years to repay the debt that's already spent. So when they talk about all these benevolent programs, free college, free housing, all this stuff, we're in debt now because of what we have paid out to free Medicare, free welfare, free Social Security. That's what we've, and it is. People say, well, they're paying into Social Security. Yeah, a millionth of what they're taking out, basically. So, or a thousandth or something.
I should have brought it over. I had printed out. I was going back through some cartoons. Mm-hmm. One of the great cartoonists today is Ramirez. He's a conservative, great author, drawer. He's an artist on his cartoons. Very conservative, great stuff. So I went back to see what McNelly had. Now McNelly was also a great cartoonist, editorial cartoonist.
Okay.
And I was going through some of his he died unfortunately, way too young. But this was from, I think this must have been from the George Bush administration. I think McNelly died during one of the Bushes. Anyway, he had this thing where he showed this guy putting I should have brought it over here. There was a coin-operated machine, like a Coke machine, and it said something like free stuff or free something, whatever it was, and then on the coin slot it said insert grandchildren here. And so, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, the debt. If anybody thinks that you're not putting your grandchildren, I mean, all the congressmen have.
Right. Well, and this is interesting. This is the argument that all the pro-environmental movement people make. is you don't care about your grandkids.
Right.
You're letting the environment go to shit. Well, you don't care about your grandkids.
Right.
Because you're spending the economy to shit.
Right.
And so, we know that neither of those things are true. Both people care about their grandparents. They're just not seeing what's grandchildren, right? But they're just not seeing what's going on.
They're not.
I mean, to me, the climate thing is bogus, but
yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, that's one of the reasons is we've been told the scare they keep moving the goalposts, and we were supposed to have been past the tipping point years ago, and now they've moved them down again. So okay. So what were you going to say about Trump? You had some.
Well, just the $2 trillion. What's going to happen from here? I mean, he's offered them everything they want, basically.
Right. Okay.
And if he does what I think he's going to do, he's going to keep doing that. He's just going to keep massive spending. He's going to be the biggest spender ever.
Right.
And he's
Obama the piker.
Oh, nothing. He's going to double. And he should. I mean, that's what every president prior to him has doubled.
Right.
So why wouldn't he also double the debt?
No reason.
No reason not to. And apparently, look, and he's the Republican.
Right.
So who's going to pull the reins on the spending at this point?
Nobody. That's going to go. They've already projected that his next budget is going to be at least 1.2 trill.
Yeah.
When
do you think he passes the 2 trill deficit?
A year. Yeah. I don't know.
For the first year, the 2020 or 20.
Well, I don't know. Of course, when you think about it,
2020.
Well, one thing that's interesting when you think about it. The election, of course, in 2020, either somebody's going to be elected, we don't know who, but that budget for 2021 is settled in October, basically, 2020. So whoever's elected is going to have to live with that.
Right.
Pretty much. That'll be interesting. Okay, next item I've got here has to do with the homeless.
Okay.
The elite are very tolerant of the homeless until they start showing up in their own neighborhoods. I thought this was a number of Americans living on the streets continues to grow very rapidly, and this is particularly true in our major West Coast cities. More than 500,000 Americans, which actually doesn't seem to be all that many out of 320 million, will sleep on the streets of our cities tonight. Economic conditions deteriorate, that number is likely to rise double or even triple. Of course, many among the elite are all in favor of doing something for the homeless, as long as they don't have to be anywhere around them. For example, many in the homeless population enjoy camping out on the beautiful beaches of LA at night. But of course, many of the elite have paid millions of dollars for their place out there, and they're not too thrilled. One of the guys that they bring up here is Sex Pistols frontman Johnny Rotten, was a key symbol of anti-establishment in the 70s. But now he's freaking out because homeless people are camping out on his Venice beach, and he says the main thing he worries about, he says the LA in his swanky LA neighborhood is so bad that the thieves are tearing the bars from the windows of his multi-million-dollar home, lobbing bricks and setting up unsightly tent cities and littering the beach with syringes. A couple of weeks ago, I had a problem. The former punk prince opined they came over the gate and put their tent inside right in front of the front door. It's like the audacity of those people. And if you complain, what are you? Then you're one of the establishment elite? No, I'm a bloke who worked hard for the money, and I expect to be able to use my own front door. And he also says, and this is kind of interesting, he also says the beach in front of his home is almost unusable because of all the needles and human poop.
Yeah, okay, so a couple of things about this. First of all, you're absolutely right. 500,000 homeless in a country of 325 million is a tiny, tiny percentage, and really represents people who are suffering from mental illness that is not serious enough to have them incarcerated, but too serious for them to go to work or to do anything of any usefulness in this community. So basically, you basically got, I mean, there are people walking around at the 50 IQ level, and what are you going to do with them? And people imagine, I mean, some people imagine that they're just people down on their luck or whatever. Like this article says, well, it'll go up because of hard times, you know, you'll lose people at the bottom. Well, those people will find work again. If you want to, if you're capable, able, you can get back into the system at the low levels, even with the laws that we have which keep people out.
Right.
But so you're gonna have these people out there. Now he's talking about Venice Beach here, and I'm gonna tell you about Venice Beach.
Paradise.
Well, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Okay, Venice Beach arose because it was a warehouse district at one point. It fell into complete disrepair, and so the rents were super cheap. And then that brings in the artists and the bohemians and people who could rent a warehouse for $100 a night or whatever it is, live in a warehouse, that kind of stuff. And so then it filled up with artsy and whatever things, but now you've got a bunch of rich people moving in. They actually call it Silicon Beach because big companies have headquarters there.
I didn't know.
You have like Facebook or Twitter has a headquarters right there. And what you see is these fabulous places, fabulous buildings, fabulous houses right next to absolute squalor. And so that's the front lines of the gentrification fight, basically.
Right.
And I actually watched a big special about how the producer of the special was all upset about these rich people moving in and bringing all their money.
Wow, ooh, that's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah. They were really upset because, for example, somebody who'd been living there for 40 years would sell for a couple of $1 million the house they got for $30,000 or something, and move somewhere nice, somewhere else in the country. But as far as that person was concerned, the neighborhood was damaged. The neighborhood was.
They want to do that here too.
Look, I know. Well, I'm just telling you the argument here.
Yeah.
But in Johnny Rocket's defense here, or Rotten's defense, the beach out in front of his house is absolute trash. And literally, you can walk out there and just watch people just go to the bathroom right in the middle of the beach. Like there's.
Couldn't go out in the water?
They don't even care.
Don't even care.
They don't even care. It's like a Woodstock concert, basically.
Jeez.
Every single day. There's a little flea market that's up and down the boardwalk right there. And it's full of just the crappiest crap you can possibly imagine. Hand-woven little pieces of yard crap, basically, as far as I'm concerned.
But those people are making money?
Sure, they're making 50 cents here and $1 there, and they're making enough to buy the sandwich that they skateboard down to the 7-Eleven to buy or whatever.
Okay.
But it's a hideous environment. But it'll get better because the rich people will move in there and they'll buy up everybody and make it nice.
Well, of course, one of the things you have is we always talk, governments are the ones that are the barriers to entry on so much of this stuff, and that is they talk about the gentrification. But I remember when the places in San Francisco, I don't know, Haight Ashbury or something like that, was the same kind of thing. For 30 years ago, it was all hippies and everything, but now you have a couple $1 million for some places like that in San Francisco. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff that does happen. People don't realize that somebody's lived someplace for 30 years. But I know that when I was growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up in, it was all children, a lot of children, but we grew up, and now you sold out to somebody else. Didn't sell out because the price houses had gone up and you weren't selling to people with just 2 kids anymore. That's another thing. Okay, now, of course, another one. Here's another one. Sanders, our friend, President Sanders,
Ernesto,
Sanders has suggested Disney should use the profits from Avengers to pay all of the workers a middle class wage. Now, it's interesting because Disney has Star Wars and the Avengers, and I mean they're doing pretty well. It would be truly heroic if Disney used its profits from Avengers to pay all of its workers middle class wage instead of paying the CEO $65.6 million, over 1,400 times as much as the average Disney worker. So that's what's he going to do?
You just take the money from the people who produced the movie and took all the risk, and you just give it to the other people.
Give it to the guys that are walking around in the Mickey costumes and stuff like that.
That's right. You give it to them, and then next year.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. No, well, it won't. Yeah.
Next year, if there's another movie, you do it again.
And of course, the incentive to make that movie is going to be a little low.
What?
Yeah, how can that be?
Why? No. It's just amazing. What an amazingly unsophisticated view of business he has. I mean, really, truly.
Well, they always talk about
Like, you're
the
just
fact that
gonna-
he got a lot of his learning in Russia.
Well,
On his honeymoon.
obviously. I mean, look, this is one of two things. Either he actually believes that someone, the company, could reallocate all of that money as though it's not all specifically delineated to go to places already.
Yeah.
They could do that, or he's just saying propaganda.
Well, no, that's kind of, it's the envy trick. I mean, that's what that's what they all do. Is they, these people are rich and you.
I know, but I
And so, but I mean, CEO Bob Iger is taking home $65.6 million. But what's he going to do with the money? I mean, the worst case condition is he stuff it in his mattress, but that money then would not be available. In other words, the prices marginally would come down on everything else because that money is not circulating in the economy.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not. Look, I mean, I'm with you. Like, it's just an agitating way to describe the.
Elect me. That's all it is.
Yeah, I guess.
On the unfairness.
It's just.
Goodbye handshakes.
Mm-hmm.
Some companies are considering banning all physical contact in the workforce. Have you ever been approached with a two-cheek kiss? ? Well, if you didn't expect it, it's totally awkward.
There's a three-cheek kiss down in Paraguay or.
Yeah, right. Back and back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Brazil, yeah.
But it's interesting because they're talking about it being awkward.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your point? I mean,
I think the big complaint is the germ spreading.
they didn't mention that in here. They
'Cause that's
said-
what I've previously heard about the movement to end shaking hands. Is that
Well, they
what
did-
the
what
hell
they
are you
did was-
doing? Swapping hand sweat every day. All these different people.
Yeah, okay. Well, where's the corpses? I mean, where are the bodies with this?
Well,
as their hands
the ones
slowly
that are
mold.
well, they're the ones that are in the morgue or whatever. What
Yeah, right. The autopsy said he died of a handshake.
No, he caught a disease. How did you catch a disease? I shook the guy's hand, whatever it was. And so, you caught a cold. It's because you shook their hand.
Of course, I don't know if you've noticed this, but literally, you cannot walk any place without seeing those little hand cleaner thingies now. The little squirty bottles that just...
Yeah, well, and of course, they've actually determined that those squirty bottle things are bad for you.
What?
Yeah, because you're not supposed to kill all the good bacteria on your hand as well.
Really?
Yeah. Antibacterial soap and that kind of and gel and stuff is
No
no-no.
kidding.
Yeah.
You mean like when I take a shower with my...
If it's antibacterial stuff, yeah, then you're not supposed to do that apparently.
So the French have been right all along with the stink.
Well, you can use like regular soap.
Ivory soap.
Yeah.
The nice thing about ivory soap, of course, it doesn't matter so much anymore. I remember when I used to go to camp, we would have ivory soap because why? It floated.
Right.
Because we had to take the bath in the lake,
Oh, okay.
and so you would
Drop the soap, yeah.
drop your soap straight there. So that's one of those things. Okay. So, anyways, it's the total survey by some outfit called Total Jobs found that 3 out of 4 people want physical contact banned at work. Yeah, what's Joe Biden going to do about that, I wonder? The idea is to remove confusion over what kind of touch is appropriate. So they have so the idea is we have no touching. We would have to rewrite all the etiquette books because the way you do, and I know when I was brought up,
Yeah.
my dad told me how to do a handshake.
Yeah.
It's firm, it's this, but it's not.
I'm with the no handshake moves. I think they're stupid.
Really?
Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah.
I tell you,
it's weird. It's a weird.
I'm sorry, I'm not me, boy. As far as I'm concerned, you always do a handshake. Unless you're in Japan, then you do the bow.
Well, exactly.
Speaking of Japan,
Aha. Transition.
transition. I got my DVDs for Shogun,
Aha.
and I'll tell you, what a great movie! It's 5 CDs plus an extra one, or DVD, excuse me, and it's a total of something like 600 minutes. But boy, what a great movie! And the 6th DVD tells you, it's pretty poor actually, but they tell you a little bit of how they made it and how they selected the people and so forth. But I thought it was fascinating too, because the movie is so good.
Yeah.
You get a chance, and it was cheap. So that's another thing I like. Okay, So now we've got here,
Are we doing our entertainment update?
for what?
Well, you just did the DVD on Shogun, so I was going to do the Game of Thrones thing real quick.
Good, because I had that here and I crossed it off. Why? Because there was a thing that came up with a bunch of spoiler alerts, and I said I can't do that. So tell me about it.
Well, okay. All I'm going to say is that HBO messed up.
Whoa! Wow! How?
What happens is it turns out that HBO does not have the bandwidth to serve the numbers of people who are going to be watching Game of Thrones in super high def. So they compressed the crap out of the episode, and it caused pixelation all over the place.
Okay.
Because the episode was shot in a particular way to make it super dark. And the cinematographer, I saw a statement from, and he was like, "Look, what I shot, you can see. If you don't have a bright light behind you and your TV set is set correctly." He said, "But HBO effed up. They compressed it and they blew it. And let me tell you, it was horrible. It looked as though it was shot in low definition. The entire time, it looked as though it was shot in 1970s definition. And you can see it clearly if you look at a review that cuts this episode with past episodes. The definition is just starkly different in the old episode.
How can that be?
Well, like I just explained it. They knew they were going to broadcast this out to 10 million people, and they decided to stiff a bunch of people with the stream and hope they didn't notice, apparently. and they got caught because the episode happened to be super dark. And also, the director decided to film the battle scenes like he just chopped up a bunch of film and threw it into a blender or something. All you could see is just a flash of swords and people, and you just heard clanking noises, and it all looked like something was happening, but there was maybe 20 minutes of action that you couldn't tell anything that happened on the screen. Nothing. It was non-information, visually speaking. And then, so you compound the two, the super darkness, the pixelation, with this directing style, and you effectively eliminated 20 to 30 minutes of viewing pleasure, and it was just gone. And then they made several other hideous choices as far as I was concerned, and that is, they ended the major conflict that's been built up the entire series long over 7 seasons. They ended the conflict 3 episodes early. And now they're turning back to a more minor conflict in the whole thing. They built up, it started out Game of Thrones, it's man versus man, it's a queen versus king, and then they there's something else going on here, these undead people, and all this kind of stuff. And then they had this fight between the living and the dead, and it's over. And so now they go back to
What do they have, 2 or 3 more episodes?
3 more left.
3 more. And we don't know what they're going to do with them, or?
Well, we know. Well, the only thing they can do is they can have a battle between the living now, but it's like just so anticlimactic because they just had the big battle that they've been building up forever, and all of the big players on the side of darkness, none of them got to fight anybody. It was really weird. Like they had these special White Walker warriors. None of them fought anybody. Not a single one of them fought anybody. Like they just.
So the question is this stuff going to be available on a high def DVD?
It is, and that's what everybody says. Is there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can find. Apparently, Amazon has a pretty good stream.
Okay.
And you can adjust your TV dramatically in terms of its settings to drop the backlight if you have OLED, especially. Turn off every other light in your room and all that kind of stuff, and black the whole thing out, and then apparently you can see it pretty good. Or wait for the DVD, the Blu-ray.
Well, that's what I did on Shogun. I'm waiting for the DVD.
Yeah. So anyway.
Okay. Well, yeah. That'll be. I'm one of those people. There was a thing on my Facebook page. How many people have never seen an episode of Game of Thrones? And they no, not me. Never. What? Not a one. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those too. Maybe I'll get around to doing it when the DVD.
It's good. It's a good series. It's incredibly good cinematographically. They travel all over the world. They spend millions of dollars on each episode. The acting is incredible. The writing is incredible. It's too bloody for me, too gory. You can't watch it and go to sleep. So, and don't let your kids watch it. But
they had. Speaking of episodes. the last final episode of Big Bang Theory was filmed the other day, or they did it, and they had a big blowout party. So I think they've got, this is the last season. I think they have about 3 more episodes that's already in the can. And so, but anyway, they did the final one. So we'll have to see how that works.
All right, what else we got?
Venezuela.
Okay.
Venezuela, we are with you, says the U.S.
Finally, I can take us to Venezuela.
Venezuela, okay. The Trump administration declared quick and enthusiastic support Tuesday for the Venezuelan opposition effort to spark a military uprising against the embattled Maduro, hoping for decisive action in political crisis that has engulfed the South American nation. Now, what they've tried to do is they are supporting this guy who's basically announced himself. Guaido has announced himself to be the real president or whatever it is, and his idea is to, quote, restore democracy. Now, the way they want to do it, of course, is to get the military all in there to kill everybody around, and and then restore democracy. And if the South American countries, no offense, don't have a real big history of this. So but it was interesting because this is supposed to be different from the coup, the short-lived coup that was then to oust President Chavez in 2002, that seemed to have U.S. support. So anyway, Mike Pompeo says, we're with you.
This one's totally legal.
Right. So we're with you, and so they have a leading role. Pence, who has a leading role in the administration's effort to persuade Maduro to give up power. America will stand with you until freedom and democracy are restored. That would be of course, the question then is, what would be the reaction of the Trump administration if the House of Representatives declared Hillary Clinton president and called the military to oust Trump? I mean, the question is, what are you doing down there, for God's sakes?
Well, and this brings up 2 issues. This is, well, first, did you see Trump's response? He's threatened Cuba.
Yeah, what was that all about?
He says the Cubans are interfering.
Oh, right, yeah. The Cubans are interfering.
So he says he's going to blockade Cuba if that happens. So this brings up a couple of issues. This is, one, do we do anything, and I say we, does the United States have any interest in interfering with the situation in Venezuela? And then 2, does it have any interest in preventing anybody else from interfering in Venezuela because of the Monroe Doctrine or something like that?
Yeah, the Monroe Doctrine.
Okay, so do you have any answers for?
The only thing I can tell you is, of course, you're treading on thin ice here, because the Russians and the Russians especially, are down there,
right,
like they were in Cuba,
right.
And the deal is that apparently there's some rumor floating around that Maduro was getting ready to hoof it on out of there and go to a sanctuary country.
Right, that's what Shapiro reported.
Yeah, and I don't know,
somebody did.
Somebody reported that, and that the Russians said, no, stay. We'll support you. Well, I don't know. When I think about the dictators in the past that had a chance to take their billions and hoof it out and didn't.
Yeah, it always works out well for them when they trust a superpower.
Yeah, boy, isn't that the truth? Oh my God! So anyway, so what was the other thing you said?
Well, yeah. So the question is, should we have does the United States have an interest in interfering or in any way influencing the outcome of whatever's going on in Venezuela?
Yes.
You're going with yes?
It's called oil. We want the oil.
Yeah, but that's a economic thing.
Oh. Well, that's
we don't have any, from my perspective, we don't have any military interest in Venezuela.
I don't think so.
And so, from my perspective, we should stay the hell out of whatever the hell's going on down there.
Should have never. The idea that they do this Pence and these clowns.
Rubio wants
Rubio's. And nobody who's the saber rattling that goes on. And shut up! You got no business. It's none of your business. Get out of the way. Nothing. Let me put it this way: what could possibly go wrong? Everything.
He's singing to his base, though.
I know.
His base is a bunch of Cubans in Florida that he's got to go down there and say, "Look, we'll resist the dictator. We'll go in. We'll use the full force of the United States and that kind of stuff." I'm with you. I mean, I say stay out. But what if, as you say, the Russians and the Cubans get involved? Does it make any difference to you?
What I'm saying is, you start to do
that's more incentive for us to stay out, as far as you're concerned.
Totally. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I mean, the last thing you need, of course, is to go out there and they've got their
Bomb the Russians.
Well, right. Well, they've got their they've got their fancy B-2 type bomber now.
Right. Yeah.
You know, go and blow that up and see what happens.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm just waiting for a false flag.
Oh yeah. That's what you think we're going in?
Wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised. So
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we did a little assistance as well. But for me, it doesn't make any difference either. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, the last thing I got here.
Okay.
And this is the thing that I've always said. Here's the way you put the United States on to ruin it. Now, the Rhode Island College is evacuated and classes are suspended over a shell casing found in a hallway just one day after the North Carolina shooting.
Oh.
So this is in Rhode Island. Okay, so
Okay.
I don't know, conspiracy. Okay, so anyway, they found a shell casing in a hallway. It was just the casing. So they called in the cops, the bomb squad, they called in everybody. They closed the whole place down. Everybody was evacuated. Go home, stay calm, nothing to worry about. Go home, run away, run far, run fast, but stay calm, and and wait for further instructions. They evacuated the campus, and then they said the shell casing was found, whatever it was, 6th floor of Knight campus at 7 a.m. and
who reported it? You know, like I got one. I got a shell casing.
Right, here it is. Shell casing. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, the troopers and firearms detection dogs searched the campus, the entire campus, okay, 18,000 people or whatever had to be evacuated, and they found no additional weapons or casings. So my point is this, which I love. Is that all you have to do? Is that, it used to be you had to phone in a more or less credible bomb threat.
Right. Now you just roll a shell casing.
You roll a shell casing in there, for God's sake. You gotta be kidding me. And the whole place is shut.
Loses their mind.
It's just sitting there. I mean, I remember when we were on the old Jimmy Doan show, we were talking about, there was something else akin to this. And I thought, boy, that's, basically all you have to do is to take a handful of whatever it is, and just start scattering around, and everything just shuts down.
Apparently so. So I don't know what that other thing was, but I'll get that. Don't worry.
Okay.
So speaking of big companies, did you notice that Alphabet lost $80 billion in market share in one day the other day?
Whoa! Why? How?
Because they missed on their earnings report.
By how much? Or does it matter?
I guess it doesn't matter. My point is that they lost $80 billion. They lost a little chunk of cash.
Well, in market share, that's just because the shareholders lost some.
Right. So my point though is that what you're seeing there is market reallocating resources.
Right.
That's fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
You think about it. 80 billion got sucked out and got put someplace.
In one day. Okay. So that is the market responding, and that's how fast the free market works. Trump was talking about spending $1 trillion on infrastructure. Here's 1/10 of that in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Beat that.
Yeah, beat that.
Okay. I wanted to mention real quick the school vouchers in Florida situation.
Yes, apparently.
saw that.
And I was going to do some more on it, but I'm going to save it, I think, because it just started.
Okay, well, I'll just mention it then. I'll just say that what it appears to be is an allocation of $130 million out of the $30 billion that we spend on education here in Florida.
Well, is that now? Is the state spends $30 billion?
No, I'm adding both the state and federal there. It's
Okay.
23 plus 15. It's
Okay,
30.
That's not
Yeah,
local.
it's 38 billion. Well, that's the total Florida education budget is about $40 billion per year, which is a huge amount of our
Okay, so now they're talking about how many million?
130.
Okay, this is like a rounding error practically.
Well, yeah, it's a
Okay.
little tiny bit.
And they're gonna they want to rob the government-run schools, rob them,
Right.
and put this into charter schools or
Right, voucher system.
voucher system, right?
Right, exactly. So the money's still going to get spent on education.
Right.
But apparently, not having the administrators allocated is.
You mean the parents?
No. Parents.
You mean the parents are going to have
what
this
if-
voucher and decide what to do with their children?
Exactly. What do they know about education?
It says in the Constitution in Florida that the state has the ultimate.
And that's what we're trying to get back to, obviously.
Yeah,
You don't want the parents
Boy, what do they know?
having a decision. Exactly. Well, somebody already said in the article that I read, the parents already have plenty of choices.
Oh,
They
yeah?
said they have plenty.
Name.
They said, well, because there's some magnet schools you can apply to and potentially get into. So you have at least 2 or 3 choices. Yeah.
Well, the other thing, when you realize that in a lot of this stuff, when they do have the voucher system or the charter schools, more often than not, they are way oversubscribed.
The charter schools?
Yeah, I mean, I see it all the time where they have maybe 300 spots or something like that, and 3,000 people want it. You know, they have a lottery system in some states,
Right,
in order to
right.
get into those schools.
Well, I don't know. The reports I've seen is kind of a mixed bag, but it's, I mean, from my perspective, any step in the direction of freedom of allocation of resources is a good one.
Of the market, yeah, the market, because there's I've talked long about this, that the government school system is nothing more than seriously an indoctrination program, and
well, even if it did a great job, at this point the cost is getting ridiculous.
Well, it is.
When you look at if it's $40 billion, it's a little bit less than that, and there's 2.5 million students in the state.
Right.
So I mean, you're talking between $15,000 and $20,000 a year per student. So in the average class the student to teacher ratio is 15 to 1.
Okay.
In the state, which is not bad at all.
No.
But if you think about it, if each one of those students was paying just $10,000, that's 150 grand.
Mm-hmm.
The teachers should be getting the lion's share of.
Right.
But they're obviously not, because our teachers get
Not much.
a tiny amount of that. And what's that because of? Administration. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a good move, but it's a tiny thing. The entire school system should be sold off, because people need to put their faith back in the market to give them what they want.
Well, I've always said that education is too important to be left to the bureaucracy.
I'm with you on that, but I've got friends right now who are crying today because of this ruling, because they are terrified that nobody cares about education except the people who are in charge of the state coffers.
Right.
No matter how much they care about it, and other
They
people.
don't, well, let me put it this way. If you look at which I have tracked for 20 some odd years, I've tracked the performance here in Alachua County. And if you think that they care, they haven't been doing much good. I mean, the fact is we got A through F schools, lots of Fs.
The care is measured by the amount of money they're willing to throw at it.
Yeah, but certainly not measured by results. And of
No.
course, what they do is all they do for the results is they test and test and test and test. And the kids walk out and they can parrot some stuff maybe, but there's no critical thinking.
Look, I'm with you, and my last experience with the people graduating out of the public school system was not good, but it's anecdotal, so I'll refrain.
Yeah, mine's anecdotal too, because I taught a class in it.
There you go. All right, this is super important. So I'm going to have to mention this. A British Columbian father was overruled or was ordered by a court in Canada to refer to his 14-year-old child by her chosen gender.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now under threat of being jailed if he refers to her by the wrong gender, not only to her, but also to a third party. So he can't decide what gender he wants to refer to his daughter as, his 14-year-old, under
On arrest.
right, and they call his speech violence. They said that he did violence to her by not referring to her as a boy. She wants to be a boy.
Right.
And so,
Or he wants to be a boy.
well, whatever.
He's a boy.
Yeah, whatever. But as far as they're concerned, but my point is that they, as a parent in Canada, your child can be taken from you and put through whatever type of therapy that they want. If the child says that they don't want you to refer to them by X pronoun and you try to do that, that's violence against them. And go ahead.
What about the other pronouns?
Oh, yeah, you got to use the right one.
Well, but there's like 30 of them or something.
Well, you got to learn whichever one is right. And if they
Okay.
want to switch, they can switch.
Okay.
So, unless you think this is only Canada, a 17-year-old was just removed from an Ohio family for the same reason.
Really?
Yes.
By DCA or DCF,
Yeah.
whoever it was.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
So if your child decides to be called by a different pronoun and you refuse to do that, there is now legal precedent in the United States for your child to be removed.
So now here's my question. Here's my question. What happens when that child turns 18?
Well, then they can do whatever they want. Then
the parents can say him?
Well, yeah. Well, that's a good question. Probably, actually, that's a good question because it depends on the jurisdiction of the court that they would be under. I'm not sure what level of prosecution this father was facing, whether it was a case that's under their Department of Children and Families, in which case the jurisdiction would end when the child turns 18.
Right, well that's my point.
But if it's a criminal case, which it may very well be, because that's the kind of stuff that's happening these days, they're calling them criminal cases, calling it violence.
So in other words, if your child turns 18 as now an adult, and you decide at that, you might have been referring to your kid, boy kid, male kid, as her all the time in order to stay out of jail. And now you said, screw it, I'm done with this. And now it's him.
Right.
Do you? So
I can't speak to that. Obviously, I just said, I don't know what level of in certain countries, I think that's the way that it is over in Britannia, basically, in the British Isles. I think that's the way that it is, and I think it may be that way in Canada, but I'm not sure. They may age out at 18, so.
Age out.
Yeah. Of the jurisdiction. But watch out. All right, and then on that same sort of note, a biological man broke a bunch of women's weightlifting records over the weekend.
Oh yeah, good.
Identified as a girl and broke a bunch of records. And Sports Illustrated finally had a woman in a full burqa on their cover.
I heard about that. It's the swimsuit issue.
Yes.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you. You know, how many magazines do you think you're going to sell when you
know your audience?
It's just funny. If you think for 2 seconds that
she said she was really happy that finally she felt included, and I thought, well, when are they going to have a fat old white guy on there so that I can feel included?
Right, exactly. Yeah, in a what do you call it, a mankini?
Exactly. All right. Well, that's our fun for today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Uncle John. Hope you guys had a little fun.
So you're going to post this up in YouTube with the delineated topics.
Sam, I will. Yep. In just a few minutes, an hour or so. And then you can get it on iTunes as well. These tracks brought to you by Kevin MacLeod. This is Cold Funk. And you're going to hear Whiskey on Mississippi. Happy Game Show. I don't even know if I have to say that, but I like getting the word out for Kevin. So we'll be back again 4 o'clock on Sunday. Join us at that time. And
Now on Cinco de Mayo, we still have to drink beer or something?
Well, I don't, probably.
Isn't that a Mexican thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're Mexican.
Yeah.
So, I'm Counselor Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doan Show.
Jimmy Doan Show.
We'll see you soon.